Good morning, everybody. So lovely to see familiar faces and new faces as well. So, welcome and thank you very much for being here. Um, Today is co-working Gather and Tend in Spring Day, which is what we do once a season, basically. So the last one was in winter, at the end, no, kind of beginning of winter. And this has pushed back a little bit, so we're like properly in spring now, sort of. It's very grey out the window this morning, but that's okay. And yes, and it is my 3 year anniversary on Substack today, which has just randomly happened to be today. But it feels like, although, it's kind of like nothing, but also I feel like Substack's been quite a big part of my last kind of 3 years as well. So it is nice to celebrate, I think, and just yeah, I will do some proper like reflections and thinking back to everything that I don't know that I've written, but also just mainly the connections and conversations. I think that's been so lovely over this time. Um, so, for those that don't know me that well, I'm Lindsay. I'm in North London, very much born and bred, haven't moved very far. I'm a mother, a writer, and a lifestyle PR consultant. So, my career has been in PR for the last 15 or so years. Um, and I set up my publication Story and Thread on Substack, as I said, 3 years ago, um, where I write mainly about creativity and mothering and home and garden, but always very much through a seasonal lens. Um, and yeah, kind of just as I said about Substack being a big part of like this chapter of life, I feel like having my first child, my daughter, in 2020, January, very end of January 2020, just before kind of everything in the world shifted, I can very much divide my life between like before 2020 and after, and they feel very kind of separate. So I feel like this kind of 6 years now has been kind of an interweaving of like all of the different parts of myself, and kind of, yeah, not necessarily going back at all, but kind of trying to bring everything together. And it's been, I think, having Substack kind of along the way has been a really amazing part of it, kind of just a way to have a creative outlet, but also that I've been able to kind of write stuff down. So a lot of my kind of inner workings are within my Substack in one way or another. And it's nice to have that record of it, I think. And then I set up my membership, the Beauty Thread, a year and a half ago, and that is really intended to be a very kind of cozy creative community where we have kind of co-working and then seasonal gatherings, and really to provide like a just a space where we can land, like a soft place to land, in the middle of our kind of busy lives, and to have a space to connect kind of inwards, also outwards to the season unfolding, and the kind of cycles around us and also with others as well. And I think I find that kind of important after living for quite a while in my 20s and early 30s, kind of in a very linear, external validation centered way. And I found myself in quite a kind of state of disconnect. So, yes, kind of slowing things down and having a space to reconnect with myself, but also with others and the world around me feels important. And now, kind of coming into this the third anniversary of writing on Substack, I'm feeling like things are becoming a little clearer. And I think that I am realizing that actually the kind of heart of everything is this idea of storytelling. And that, storytelling is kind of a natural human urge and need. But I feel as though kind of throughout my life, from like reading and writing stories as a child to then moving on to do a history degree and learning about stories in the past, and then into PR, which is very much telling the stories of others. It feels like a very like strong thread, and alongside the softness, and I feel very strongly about that as well, that we need this sense of softness. The world feels quite hard and sharp, and I personally feel that there is a lot of strength within softness and kind of being flexible and um, yeah, bending rather than breaking, basically. So, I mean, I've got lots of thoughts around that, but the seasons as well, I find to be a real anchor in my life and to ensure that I don't fall into that linear kind of trap again. Um, Beauty, very much so, and not kind of in a superficial, one layered way, but very much kind of that connection with finding things in our everyday lives that elicit that feeling of kind of wonder and beauty being really important. Um, Creativity, of course, and a sense of homecoming. I think mentioning like that idea of being kind of externally driven for a long time. Actually, over the last few years, it's been a much more inward journey, and I think that's felt like a homecoming in lots of ways. And then, probably the most importantly, is the sense of gathering and community. Um, and in particular, after writing a piece for International Women's Day this year, which was all about stories and very much about women's stories, I feel very kind of passionate that a legacy I'd like to, I mean, that feels like a big word, but, and a big heavy word, but what it's something I'd like to leave. And I think about it with my daughter as well, and my son too. But the idea of moving away from that, the ideas of, well, women's stories being diminished and minimized throughout history, really kind of from the 15th century, around the witch hunts time, and when kind of female solidarity became a threat to the establishment, and rewriting that narrative to remind us the power of telling our stories, and really to gather together to do that, and moving away from the competition and scarcity and that sort of mindset. And I wrote something in that piece about how coming together to share our stories as women is a special kind of alchemy. It's how we rightfully take up space, how we heal ourselves, each other, and the wounds of division. And that women talking together has the power to make lasting change, one word at a time. So, yeah, I'm feeling like that's coming through. And I think within the membership that there'll be a couple of like little shifts around the offering, not in a massive way, but to really kind of centralize that idea of telling our stories together. Um, so yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. And it's, yeah, wonderful to have you guys here.